truth, and we allow ourselves to feel it in every cell, that we are both human and divine. And that we define our wholeness by an integration of both of those states of being. And so this morning we celebrate that wholeness. We let go of what was or what will be, and we allow ourselves the gift of being fully present right here, right now, in this moment. And so it is. Amen. Let's stand and sing.
I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am.
Did you enjoy that little Barry Manilow moment there? A little key change? Yeah, cool. All right, let's share together in our vision. Centered in love, we embrace a positive path for spiritual living. And our mission, wherever we go, Lowe's, Walmart, Giant, Wise, the car wash, we provide a welcoming community that inspires and encourages all who gather here through the teaching, sharing, and practice of universal spiritual principles. And one of the ways we practice those principles is to honor wherever you are on your hugging journey. So if you would like a hug, we will bring it on in. If you're more comfortable with a handshake, we will respect that. And if you want us to leave you completely alone, trust me, we understand. We will honor whatever bubble you create around yourself. Have a great time. twice today. All right, a couple of announcements. Our prayer chaplains today are Dan Christopher, and then Sam Sherman is holding space from us from home. Yard sale donations can be brought in on Sundays, which I really don't need to make that announcement given how many of you were schlepping things in this morning. You can also bring them in during office hours, Tuesday through Thursday, 10 to 2. My next class starts May 4th, and I am teaching Meeting Jesus again for the first time. It's one of my very favorite classes to teach, so whether you love Jesus or have some serious issues with the misuse of Jesus, I encourage you to take this class. It is like meeting him again, and in a loving, compassionate, powerful, amazing way. So, and you all know I love talking about my Jesus. The first membership class for this year is after church on May 7th. It is Unity 101. So if you are not a voting member of Unity of Palmyra and you would like to be one, it is one of 3 membership requirements, or if you would just like a refresher and to learn more about Unity and Unity of Palmyra in specific and the Unity movement in general, please do come. It'll be 1 to 4 on Sunday afternoon, May 4th. Jody's concert is this afternoon at St. Stephen's at 4 o'clock, right? Okay. It is awesome. I encourage you to attend. It's she and her other students of Jordan will be singing, and we've gone to almost every one, and it's just been wonderful every single time. And some of the folks that guest sing here will also be singing there, so you will recognize them. It's going to be awesome. So it's a rich, full day here at Unity of Palmyra. After Joanne gives her talk, she is going to be she has a presentation to share with us downstairs, and she gave me the choice of what to pick, and I picked That Ain't Christian. Now, if that title doesn't grab you, I don't know what will. So I do invite you to come down. Gwen and Beck and Brandy have brought a very substantial fellowship, so we will be happy as clams, no blood sugar crankiness, so then we can stay for Joanne's presentation. All right, I think that's it. Spirit Camp is in full swing planning. If you would like to volunteer, we could still use a couple more folks. Salem UCC is hosting that for us because Gwen wants us to be in and out. She wants the kids to have a chance to go outside. So if you'd be interested, it's July 17th through the 20th. Yes. And in the evenings, and it's going to be awesome. So if you would like to participate in that and to help out with the kids, please talk to Gwen. You guys know this as of today, but Youth Ed is next Sunday so that all the teachers could be present for Joanne's talk this morning. Did I forget anything? All right, Linda, would you please read the daily word?
Good morning. As I pray, I affirm the activity of God in your life and mine. I am honored by the trust of those who ask me to pray with them. Whatever I'm asked to pray about, my responsibility is always the same: to recognize all qualities of God are active, even in the most challenging circumstances. I remain steadfast, affirming this truth. If I have been asked to pray for healing, I release all thought of illness. I affirm divine life is active in every cell. I see harmony and perfect function restored. If I am praying for abundance, I entertain no thought of lack. I affirm divine wisdom, love, and understanding, guiding the one with whom I pray to make wise, prospering choices. As I affirm truth for all who have asked for prayer, my awareness of God's activity in my life also increases. And from 3 John 1:2, Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, and that you may be in good health, just as it is well with your soul. Amen.
I am home, my family is here. I feel loved by the ones I hold so And when my family needs me, I promise to be there. And when I need my family, I'm lifted up in prayer.
So this is the time of our service where we consciously enter into an attitude of prayer. We know that every thought, every word, every action is prayer. And at this time, we consciously enter into that state. And thank you for reading that. I love that as a prayer chaplain, you practice what you just read. So thank you. And thank you to all of our prayer chaplains. I don't think we appreciate you all enough for the space that you hold for this community. We're so grateful. So let's breathe in as we open and connect that body, mind, spirit connection. We allow spirit to flow through us and as us. We also ground in the earth, allowing the fertility of the soil and the compost to support us, to feed us, to remind us of our humanity, of the importance of honoring ourselves, our bodies, and our planet. And at the same time, we are uplifted by the energy, the lightness of spirit. In our mind's eye, we see the light of spirit and the darkness of the mulch dancing gleefully, integrating, supporting, empowering, enlightening, grounding. We shift our thinking into both and. We are not human or divine. We are human and divine. We are not light or dark. We are light and dark. And so we take that energy and that mindset into any challenges we may be experiencing today. If anyone hearing my voice is struggling in any regard, whether it be financial or physical or relational, we invite you to open your heart and your mind to any possibility present in this situation. We embrace the both-andness. Yes, we are struggling, and there must be good in here somewhere. Yes, we have encountered an obstacle, and there is an opportunity here somewhere. Yes, this feels overwhelming, and we are loved and supported and guided. And so we surround you right now. The love, the compassion, the strength, the wisdom, and the courage of this community surrounds you right now. And we know you've got this. And if you are experiencing any cause for joy or gratitude, we say, share it with us, bring it on, spread it through that golden web that connects us all. For we know that one of the powerful aspects of being in community is that when our troubles are shared, they are divided. And when our joys are shared, they are multiplied. And as always, we remember that connected or apart, we are always connected. at the heart. And so it is. Namaste.
The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. You are beautiful. You are whole. You are beautiful. You are whole. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing holy, holy, holy. High and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. We cry holy, holy, holy. Holy, I want to see you. Holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you.
So I'm just going to read the first line of Joanne's bio. The full bio was in our weekly email. This is an incredibly impressive woman, and I am very, very excited for you all to hear from her today. She is the Executive Director of Trans Advocacy Pennsylvania. She's also a commissioner on the Pennsylvania Commission on LGBTQ Affairs, a past president of Trans Central PA, and is a past president of Equality PA. She currently serves as a consultant to the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections and is a member of the governor's LGBTQ working group, and I'm going to let her get up here and share the rest of her time. Please give a warm welcome to Joanne Carroll.
When we were getting ready to do this, Stephanie asked how much of that bio did I want her to read. I said, just do a little bit, because I said, otherwise it sounds like a eulogy, and I'm pretty much alive. Anyways, I'm happy to be here this morning. If we were in southern Lancaster County, where I'm close to, I'd say good morning, y'all, but I can't say that here, being up in northern Lebanon County. But before I begin, I want to thank Jennifer King and Vicki Smith for asking me to be here. Through a whole series of emails that went back and forth, we finally put this together, and we finally found a date that would work, and here I am. And as you write the forthcoming chapters of the Chronicles of the Life of Unity of Palmyra, I pray that in the fullness of time that we'll be able to look back and say this truly was a house of God. Let me pray with you. Most holy, merciful, gracious, triune God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts and the action of our lives be acceptable to you, O Lord and our Redeemer. Amen. I need my pages a little bit better dog-eared, so bear with me. If you saw the title of what I was going to do this morning, the title was called, Who Are You Anyway? And that's an interesting question, because a lot of you probably never had to face that. But I'm going to give you several rhetorical questions that I want you to ponder for a moment. When somebody talks to you and asks your name, do you simply tell them that, or do you go beyond what that says? How do you go about introducing yourself to people? Do you ever get confused when people with the same sounding last names or same last names, like for example, Dawn or Shannon or Christian or Chris, do those names confuse you sometimes when people use those? Do you ever question who you really are or are? What constitutes your identity? You see, all those questions and more, especially the last one, was really a problem for me, because from my earliest memories, even up to this day, who I was on the outside and who I was on the inside never seemed to match up, at least not until I took positive steps 20 plus years ago. To make matters worse, I had two first names, and my parents decided in their infinite wisdom that I would go by my middle name. Well, so here you have this kid struggling with her identity, and then she's got to tell people, no, you got to use my middle name, and they kept screwing it up, so it got to be really a frustration. Now, a couple of things I would tell you about my identity, and that is, one, I am an unapologetic follower of Jesus Christ. The second thing is, I am a woman of transgender experience. There's a lot of people that could not reconcile the two of those. They would say, that's too much of a dichotomy for me to try to work with. But trust me, being assigned male at birth, it was just as much a struggle for me as it was for anybody else, because inside I knew there was beating a heart of a young woman. Now, to avoid bullying and escape injury, in my teen years, I learned how to adapt. I became a good actor. If you saw, or if you can recall, what the guys looked like in Grease and some of those other 50s type movies, they all were wearing the leather jackets and the rolled up jeans and the engineer boots and all that, and hanging out on corners, smoking cigarettes, catcalling the girls and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was the group I hung with. And the reason I did that is because as long as those guys were my peeps, nobody messed with me. Now, there was a bad side to that. In other words, it didn't help me in my grades because, being a student wasn't on their list of things to do. So I graduated 394th out of a class of 396. And, of course, that didn't bode well for me in my post-secondary education. So I ended up joining the Air Force and spent 21 years in the military. And during that time, I tried to do as many macho things as I could. And the reason for it is I didn't want anybody for even 1 second to think, for example, there was a girl inside. I tried to be as macho as I could. In fact, at one time I was in Air Commando in Special Ops, working in civic actions and counterinsurgency during the Vietnam War. I even went so far as one time to own a bull riding rodeo company. Yeah, I know, give that a moment to sink in. No, I never rode bulls, I just put the thing together. I hunted, I fished, I did all of those things that every normal male is supposed to do.
It's all right.
But there was always one thing that was there, and that was my unescapable truth that there was a girl inside, even although she was trying to be the best actor possible. Who I really was challenging because the way others saw me and what I saw in the mirror were diametrically opposed. Now, many of you probably can't relate to that experience, or maybe one or two of you can. My further challenge was the faith that I was brought up in. I'm a recovering Baptist, I would tell you. But I was, if the parlance doesn't escape you, I was saved at 10, baptized at 12, and Daddy molested me at 13. Needless to say, I got mad at God. In fact, I yelled at him for over 40 years because my daddy's hypocrisy and then the knowledge of I couldn't be myself was more than I could bear. And how he could possibly be a loving God and have me walking around with so much baggage was more than I could comprehend. I finally came back to faith when I recognized that God could love a transgender woman. And that happened on a road in Texas. I don't know if any of you have been out west, but there's a Highway 287 that runs all the way from the Canadian border and comes down. You're shaking your head, Janie. You know what I'm talking about. Well, it comes through Amarillo, Texas, actually. And just south of Amarillo, I pulled into a rest stop. And which was kind of unusual because I had just gone to the bathroom and had just bought a fresh soda, about, maybe 10 minutes north of Amarillo. So here I am sitting in this rest stop. And I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing there. And all of a sudden, it came over me. And I apologized to God for yelling at him for all that time. I said, Lord, you're not the problem, it's me. I can't accept the reality of who I am. And so if you don't mind, if I could come back into the family of God, of your family, I would love to do that. Okay, now here's the thing I want to tell you. There's a second side to the story. It's like Paul Harvey, and now the rest of the story. Some of you are too young to remember Paul Harvey, but anyway, the rest of the story is this. I was getting ready to do a presentation much similar to what I'm doing now at Community Mennonite in Lancaster. And before I was getting ready to do that, I was thinking about that experience. And I recall that at that rest stop, there was these incredibly tall cottonwood trees. Now, if you've been on the panhandle of Texas, I'll give you an hour and $100 to find a tree over 6 foot tall. In some circles, I would say no, never mind. But there they were, these incredibly tall cottonwoods. Well, there's no such thing, and all of a sudden I recognized it was the Holy Spirit that led me into that rest stop because God wanted me to reconcile. And that was my journey back to faith. Now, I would tell you I didn't go back to the Baptist church. I had too much trouble with the hypocrisy that they were living with, and we'll talk about some of that later. By the way, if you stay for that workshop later, you're going to get really sick of me by the time the day is over with. But in any case, my faith got in the way. And I continue to struggle even with the gender blessing, because I can honestly tell you that it wasn't a day or night that went by that I didn't go to sleep praying, God, take this away from me, or let me wake up fixed. I'll take either one. I don't care which one you do, but do one of them, because this is too much for me to bear. It was so much so that I tried to commit suicide 4 times. Thank God it was not a success, because I wouldn't be standing here today. But you know, in all of that, I had an aha moment when I read John 9:2. Because some of you may recall the reference, and that is when Jesus healed the blind man. And the disciples asked him, after he healed him, Lord, who sinned, the man or his parents, that he was born blind? And he said, nobody sinned. The man was born blind that the glory of God might be revealed. And I took that to heart. I was born a woman of transgender experience so that I could talk to the LGBT community and say, God is love. There's room for you in the family of God. And so if I can make that message clear as crystal, any place I go, that is my message where I think he asked me to be. Now, I want to make some other observations in regard to identity, because this ain't all about me this morning. I want to talk to you a little bit about Jesus Christ, who had two identities as well. He was the Son of God and he was fully man, both. But don't think for 1 second that I'm making any comparison to his experience and mine, because he's God and I'm not. It's just that there's an interesting parallel between the idea of two identities. Because I can say without equivocation that, thank God and his grace and mercy, I'm a child of the King, and I can look forward to the fullness of time. When we look at Christ and his identities, one of the couple of things I want to make sure you understand. He did his life in a humble way. You know, he never went around bragging about who he was. He never went around really telling anybody who he was. By the way, any of you ever seen The Chosen? That thing on TV yet? Oh, honey. Y'all are missing an experience. If you want to understand how Jesus was a human being, you got to watch that. I'm going to deviate for a minute. Is that okay?
I never deviate, Joanne. I just wanted to...
You don't get sidetracked?
Oh, no.
Okay. Shake your head yes. Yeah, okay. Anyhow, there's one scene, and that is when Jesus meets the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. And she's the only person he ever says to anybody, I am the Messiah. And what's cute about it is she says, oh my goodness, I got to go back to town and tell everybody about it. And he says, I was kind of hoping you would. So that's the kind of thing that's in The Chosen. You'd have fun with it, I promise you. So anyhow, but basically as he lived his life, he didn't go around talking about who he was. He could have easily said, I'm Jesus Christ, I am the Messiah, but he didn't. He used his euphemisms, like I am the Son of Man. In fact, even with his disciples, he never really fully identified himself. He asked Peter one time, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, well, you're Jesus Christ, the Messiah. He said, well, you're right. But he didn't say, that's exactly correct. Now, he could have easily used his powers to do things for himself. Like when he was hungry, he could have fixed himself food. The devil tried to make him make bread. He never tried to save himself from any harm. The devil tried to make him jump off the parapet of the temple, but he chose not to, because he wasn't about doing things for him. He was about doing things for people. He healed the sick. He brought the blind to see. He raised people from the dead. He did things for people. He didn't do things for himself. But he could have easily not gone to a cross. But he decided to obey the Father, and he did that so that we could live full lives. And then he never referred, like I said, he never referred to himself by name, which I think is a really huge demonstration of humility. When he was under trial by Pilate and the House of Thieves, the Pharisees, and Herod, he never really identified himself there either. Pilate asked him, are you the Son of God? He says, you say that I am. He never again identified himself in that way. But what does that tell us about how we should live our lives? First, we shouldn't live in a boastful way. We shouldn't live our lives in such a way, hey, look at me. That isn't how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be quiet, and we're supposed to follow an example of Christ, which is to walk humbly. Micah 6:8 says, walk humbly in the Spirit and with justice and mercy in our hearts. I'm paraphrasing, and I'm sure you understand. But basically, the commandments that we're left with, from Christ's mouth to our ears, from Paul's repeating, from other sources, even from the Old Testament, says we're supposed to love God with all of our heart and love others in the way we want to be loved. It's that simple. Jesus himself said, all of the commandments ride on those two things. Come to the letter of Galatians that Paul wrote. It's kind of interesting if you read it. All of the books of Paul, all the letters that he wrote, he was congratulating all of those communities of faith. Galatians was a little bit different. He said, who in the heck polluted your minds that you would get so far away from truth. And what it was revolving around was the fact that the Galatians were getting all hung up about what Peter and James were teaching, and that is that if in order to be a Christian, you also had to be circumcised. And that was the huge argument in those days. And he said, no. He said, basically, if circumcision had any value, Jesus Christ didn't need to come into the world, because you could gain righteousness simply by getting snipped. So that isn't the plan. And then he goes on in my favorite chapter, chapter 5, and he said, if we're going to observe any law in the Old Testament, basically, we need to observe all of them. So I don't know if some of you may have seen The West Wing with President Bartlett when he's talking to that really super evangelical woman, and he starts asking her all these questions about planting crops side by side and two fabrics, and whether or not Leo McGarity should work on Sunday, and about his mother and whatever. Can he kill his mom because she's wearing fabrics of two or threads? Those things. Well, let me tell you something. The Old Testament is not a Chinese menu. You don't get to pick one from column A, you don't get to pick one from column B, and that's what Paul is saying. You don't get to choose, but yet what happens all the time with those of us that are LGBT, the evangelical community would like to pick on just certain ones. And I love it when somebody says, well, you can't be a female. And I say, well, tell your wife not to wear pants, okay? So anyhow, enough, I digress. But at any rate, in Galatians, again, the 5th chapter, Christ tells, or Paul says, live in the Spirit, don't live in the law. And the spirit of the law is all those things of joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, and so on. He says there's no sanctions against those. But then he goes on to list what all of the ugly things are too. And he said that's where it goes. In gospel accounts, Christ tells his ministers, or his disciples, to go out and be ministers. In each, he tells them that if they encounter any unwelcomeness, they're to leave the dust of their sandals at the doorstep of where they were. Basically, what he's doing, he's reinforcing the old Hebrew tradition of hospitality. And it means we're supposed to extend radical hospitality to every single person that comes through the door of Unity and other churches of covenantal responsibility. If we fail to live out Christ's love as he exemplified it, you're going to find a big pile of dust right out there on the sidewalk. So we got to live into that. You know the parable of the Good Samaritan and how he treated the despised person. And that's what our job is as people of faith. We need to recognize those people that are being marginalized. And it isn't just about me being trans who's marginalized. When I first started this work of advocacy, I was speaking pretty much specifically about the trans community. And all of a sudden, intersectionality hit me between the eyes like somebody threw a brick at me. Because it ain't about me. It's about people of color. It's about people with handicaps. It's about people of all different stripes that are being marginalized. And so it isn't just about being welcome to LGBT people. It's finding ways to allow people with disabilities to find their way in a Unity church. I didn't see a ramp, by the way. It's over here. Okay. You're off the hook. But nonetheless, we also have to have the capability of sign ASL if we need to. I don't know if you have that capability or not, but somebody who's deaf needs to be feel welcome just as well. So if we're signing for them, then that's part of the process. So anyway, in all churches that are covenanted, like I'm a member of the United Church of Christ, and we say to everybody when they walk in, no matter who you are, where in life's journey, you're welcome here. You said kind of a paraphrase of that. And we mean it. We have to be extravagant. We have to be over the top. We have to go above and beyond what's normally expected in terms of what hospitality looks like, because that's the old tradition. Now, please realize that so many of our community, especially in the LGBT community, we've been put off by people of faith. We've been hurt severely by people of faith, and it goes on. Right now, there's 500 and some bills nationwide against the LGBT community. 400 or so are against the trans community itself. But there are some bright spots. One is that we happen to live in a state where we have a Democratic House and a Democratic governor, so they can try as they like in the Senate to do all the nasty stuff, but we got a stopgap if that happens. As Stephanie mentioned to you, one of my jobs is I am the executive director of Trans Advocacy Pennsylvania. We're a Commonwealth-wide organization, the first one of its kind, specifically devoted to transgender affairs. And I always do it the same way I did here. I tell people I'm an unapologetic follower of Jesus Christ and I'm a woman of experience. Because those two are my identities. Not just one, not just the other, both of them are. And I want to challenge people, especially when I speak to other churches other than ones that are covenanted, and I get a chance to do that, in schools and businesses, universities, and whatever. I say that same thing because if there's people in there whose worldview doesn't necessarily match ours, I want them to understand that they don't have a corner on the market of truth. Biblical truth tells us that we're to be open and accepting of all people. Because if we're going to follow Christ, we need to live in the New Testament, not the Old. Because that's our better source material. Now, I say it because I want to be known by that as much as anything, and I hope it puzzles and confuses the heck out of anybody whose worldview is a little more conservative than mine is. But I pray every day that when people see me, they might see the love of God coming out of me into others. I also pray that their recognition might prompt them to say, okay, what's the reason the way you are? Why are you so cheerful? Why are you so upbeat? And it might give me the opportunity to say, it's because I'm a strong faith, and my faith means so much to me. But hopefully I don't even have to say that, because I would hope that my actions more so that would speak for me rather than my words. But I still might have the opportunity to testify on God's behalf. So in closing, what do you want people to see, recognize, or remember to identify you? Will you boastfully claim your faith, or will you let your actions speak for you? Will you let the open and affirming nature of this church go with you as you go into your life? Will you do it at the bowling alley or at Lowe's or at Wawa or wherever it is you go, like as you mentioned? So when somebody walks into this church, regardless of who they are or where they are in life's journey, will they truly be welcomed? Will you truly extend that radical hand of hospitality to them? But more so as you do go about your daily life, will they see God in you? Will they see that presence of faith in your way you live? So who are you anyway? In a few moments we're going to sing a song about that, but in the meantime, let me pray with you. Most hope, merciful and gracious triune God, creator and sustainer, please forgive us for those times when we fail to be ministers of your amazing mercy and grace. We ask that you help us to be stronger in our faith and that you would empower us to let the light of your love shine out in our lives today and every day. Help us represent you daily, using words only when necessary. Amen.
We are one in the Spirit, we are one in our hearts. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in our hearts. And we celebrate the harmony our unity imparts, and they'll know who we are by our love, by our love. They will know who we are by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side, and we'll guard each one's dignity and honor each one's pride, and they'll know who we are by our love, by our love. They will know who we are by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news God is in our land, and they'll know who we are by our love, by our love. They will know who we are by our love.
Let's thank Joanne for her sharing today. And now I really can't wait for this afternoon. Yeah. Oh, so this is the time of our service where we say thank you, thank you, thank you for your incredible generosity in support of the work of this community. I hope one of the things you got from Joanne sharing is how important our presence in Palmyra and in Lebanon County is. Our work is very, very important. And thank you for your incredible generosity in the giving of your time and your talent and your treasure. We are very, very grateful. Thank you.
Stand in the light and be seen as we every
gosh, I love that song. Thank you guys, that was beautiful. All right, let's stand now and share in our unity blessing and make sure that we share with our YouTube and Facebook friends watching us now together. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in each and every one of you, even at Home Depot. I never want to forget them. I always mention Lowe's, but I also love Home Depot. Okay. Let's sing the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And wherever God is, all is well. Go forth this week and stand in the light. Be who you are, gleefully and unapologetically. Amen? All right, and join us downstairs for lunch and Joanne. All right. Bye-bye, Facebook and YouTube friends. We love you.